We're going to get back started into who must file. I'm glad that we had those hard copies. I thought maybe you guys were of that era where you all wanted everything electronic. So that's good. So if you look on the who must file, if you look at your bottom left, you're going to see it is going to reference the tab that we're going to be referring to in the 4012. So you'll be able to see this more at a glance looking into the 4012 referencing that. So who must file? This is the beginning part of we need to know who's actually required to file a tax return. And you can see that we use the verbiage must file. So they're required to file a tax return. If they don't, after a certain period of time, more than likely they're going to be receiving a letter from the IRS on here. So who must file? It looks at a person's filing status, their age, as well as their gross income. Their gross income is all income that a person receives for that year unless it is explicitly stated that it is exempt from tax on there. So in most cases, an individual, their only income is Social Security income. So that's that form SSA 1099. That is exempt from gross income, and again, in most cases. Again, so gross income is all worldwide income. So even if a person has went over to, you can go to Mexico, another country, overseas, anyone that has went over there, even military individuals, they're stationed somewhere else in another country. That is still income that is required to be reported on the tax return for that year unless it is expressly stated that it is exempt from tax. So our first chart is for most individuals who will have to follow. You'll see there's listed the 5 filing statuses. We're going to look again later. We're going to determine what are those how a person is classified for one of those filing statuses. But then also it goes to the age. And so the age is using 65. That is the age limit that is the parameter determining based off of their gross income. So you're going to see the first one. If a person is single, so they're filing a single tax return under the age of 65, then if their gross income was at least $12,950, they are required to file. So if they made maybe $12,000 for the year, 34 years old, they are not required to file a return. Somebody was 66 and they made $12,000 for the year. They're not required to file a tax return. 66, but they were still working and they made $15,000. You can see the row right below it. It says if their gross income was at least $14,700. So they're 300 over. With that $15,000, they would be required to file a tax return. So you'll be using this chart for most individuals to see if they are required to file a tax return. You'll see that it breaks it down for married filing jointly. It has if both spouses are under 65, if one spouse is 65 or older, and both spouses are 65 or older. So you do see that there are some people that are not required to file a tax return, so everyone is not filing a tax return or have a filing requirement. The middle one we look at is the married filing separately. You'll see that shows any age, and you'll see that it has the gross income limit of $5. So for the VITA programs, married filing separately is out of scope for us. We don't prepare those tax returns, but we will ask additional questions to see if they qualify for another filing status. Also, there's a lot of disadvantages for filing married filing separately. As you can see, with the gross limit of $5, that would pretty much make all of those individuals having a filing requirement. Then we have head of household. We'll go into what determines a person to be head of household, and then qualifying surviving spouse. Typically, they used to be called the qualifying widower. So going to the next chart, this one is for dependents. So some individuals already know that they're dependent. Typically, most college students, if you're leaving high school, going right into college, you would be considered a dependent on there. So it has single dependents and married dependents. Typically those married dependents, those could be those individuals, again, right out of high school deciding to get married. And so even though they're married, they still have some support from their parents. Or their income, they're just building their income, so their income is low on here. So you'll see for a single dependent, either 65 or older or blind, they must file a tax return. It's going to look at their unearned income as well as their earned income. So you'll see that the threshold for all of these, their unearned income, it is lower. Unearned income is income that a person has not worked for. You put money into a savings account, you earn interest. You purchase some stocks and bonds, and so you sell it and you actually made a profit. That's unearned income. That is something that you did not clock in or out for. Your earned income will be your wages. Okay, so a lot of this publication, you probably got the links from Jonathan when you signed up. So our 4012, this is where like a lot of this training material will be coming from. That will be considered. If you have a physical copy, so you can definitely bring that to you at the site location. But we will have laptops or desktops at our site locations, and on the desktop we will have the 4012. So don't feel like you have to know everything, 65 or older, even if it's something that you forget. Look in the 4012. Tell the tax client, give me just a few minutes. On there, that's what I do. Or if it's something like, hey, let me go and talk to the site coordinator, assistant site coordinator, just to clarify something. 2009. So don't be afraid of feeling like you have to know everything. Again, the 12,500. That's why they're coming to you to get their taxes prepared. Which is the 14,700. But you want to make sure that you have your 4012 so that you can go back and look it up. So we have a lot of individuals in most cases where a lot of dependents, they're not required to file a tax return. We should input this information or these are the qualifying. And when you kind of see those numbers where it has the earned income, that's the next one is a 4491. This is a more detailed training guide. That's the term. The 4012 that you just saw, it does give you the screenshots of what's in the taxware software. Income was 12,950. The 4491 if you want a little more detailed information. So we'll look at most of our irs.gov to see if their earned income is below that amount. That they're not, then they're not required to the irs.gov website. You can just type in these numbers and you're going to get the current publication. Any questions about dependents? 4491X, filing requirements? The IRS, they are still making updates to software. The 4491X will be their pub after. So great question. Does a dependent have to file their taxes on their own, or is it filed under your parents? So for the parent return, a dependent, that means yes, someone is eligible at the time they had not released. So that means additional whoever is eligible to claim you, they're going to select if they pass their tax legislation. If we go back to that 13614, see that intake sheet. I think it is question 10, are you eligible to be claimed as a dependent? If they select yes, then we have the 6744. When you get ready to do that dependence tax return, so this one you receive electronically or hard copy in TaxSlayer. That's going to say, so it does have the ethics, the intake quality review. So the thing about is there's going to be two returns, so that means they're going to be in our tax return. Maybe the parent's return, who's ever claiming them as a dependent, and then they're doing their own return. When you're eligible to be claimed as a dependent, this is a publication 17, so this is for all individual tax returns. The other individual, not for individuals for the NR. The IRS, they have so pretty much the dependent, they're just filing their returns. This would be on the IRS.gov website. Federal taxes tailback, also have this maybe on the desktop as well. So those this is typically why they're filing their return. The first reference material, because it does have everything. It's walking you actually through a tax return. You do have some self-employed dependents, so that does kind of boost up the requirement where they have to file, but again, they would possibly still be claimed. So you heard me mention that when a tax client goes to the tax site, so the next one is they all have to complete a form on here. And so what I did on here is I've highlighted, so everyone receives most of the scenarios or they have one that we come in contact with at our site. Everyone has to receive this form. These are complete it in order to get their taxes for chart A and B.
location.
But because of Chart C,
Once
they're
they
going to
complete
they're
it,
going to qualify,
they go to the
and
intake
they must file
individual.
a tax return.
The intake will.
So the first one we're going to look at
this.
is 1B.
They will
It
also
says
make
additional
sure
tax
that
on
they
a
have their
qualified
ID,
plan,
their
including
social,
an individual
if they don't have a
retirement
social,
arrangement,
an ITIN,
IRA,
we're gonna cover
other tax
what's an
favorite
ITIN
account.
And then
So
they
these
need to
are
have
all
all
of
of
their
their
tax
tax
documents,
our pensions,
in order for
IRA
us to start the
accounts.
tax return. So we don't want
So
to
this
give
means
something
that
over to
typically
you and
you
they
receive
didn't
your
bring all of their
401k, your
source
pension
documents.
retirement
Definitely,
account
they
once
come
you
in
and they don't have a
59
W-2.
and they're missing
That
a
is
W-2.
that
We
is
don't
what
want
the
you to have
IRS
to
has
state
stated
that
that
individuals
individuals
are
are
eligible to
something significant.
receive their retirement.
There are
So
some
this is about
situations
4 or
where
5
you have
pages,
to
and
pull
they
from
need
it
to
early.
complete this
Like
in its
2020,
entirety.
COVID hit,
They're always
people
able
lost
to
their
ask
jobs.
us for questions.
They needed to
And
pay
you
their
can see on some
bills.
of the questions, like if
They
you go to
had
number
a
10,
401k
can anyone claim
retirement.
you or your
So
spouse as a
let me pull
dependent?
money from my
It is
retirement
yes,
account.
no, or unsure. So that is
Had
the
it not
intake's
been for
responsibility
provision
if they
of
marked unsure
laws
to
that were
convert that
passed,
to a yes or
those
no.
individuals that pull from their retirement,
Then if you
and they
see
were not
that maybe
59 and a
it got
half, they
missed,
would be
then you can
subject
ask
to a
questions.
10% penalty.
You're also able to ask to
So if I
verify.
pulled
Then
out
I'll come back and I
50,000
can ask
from
and
my
verify.
401k,
Then I
you'll
will be
see
hit
that it
with
does
a
have questions that
$5,000
asks about
penalty
marital
on my
status
tax
and
return
household
because I pulled it out
information.
early.
So
So
we
the
don't
tax
ask a
penalty
person
is to,
if they're married, divorced. We don't ask them what their
and
status.
just
We
encourage
ask them
people
to
from
select have they
pulling
been
from
never
the
married,
retirement
married,
early
divorced, legally separated,
on
or
there.
widowed.
So if
because
all
based
I
upon
pulled
them
out from that
answering
year,
these
I was
type of
not
questions,
working,
we determine what their
2022,
filing
and all I
status
did
is.
was pull
So
money
someone
from
cannot
my
come up and tell me that
retirement.
they're head
That
of
was my only
household.
source of
You have to
income.
answer the
On
questions,
there,
complete
I'm
this,
required to file
so
a tax
I know that
return
you're head of
because I
household.
I'm subject to that penalty.
Also, it says list the names of everyone
depending
who
on
lived
the
in your
amount.
household.
So even if it was
So we
below
are asking
the
them to list
12,000.
everyone in the household. So
Filing
we make the
requirement that we looked on
determination if
Chart
this
A.
individual is a
Typically,
dependent
I would not
or
be
not
required to file
on there.
but
So
because
there
I
are
pulled
times
from
where
it
maybe
early
someone does
and we're
qualify
filing the
as a
taxes for
dependent. Maybe they don't want to
2022,
claim
I
them
would
on
be
the tax
subject to that
return,
penalty.
or maybe
I would
they're
have
trying
to
to
pay
claim
the
someone and they're not a
1,200,
dependent for them,
for
and we have to
pulling
tell
from
them that no, we have to take that off the tax return.
Also, 1E is the recapture of the first-time home buyer credit. So this was back in
So then on to the next
2008.
page. So you'll see the first thing that they have is their income.
So to
And this
kinda
follows
reboost and
with
revitalize,
the form
to get
1040.
people to buying homes.
So it's going to ask
They
them
had
list all
a
sources
provision
of income
if
that
you
they may
purchased your
have.
home for
If
that
they have
year,
it, we'll want them
that
to
you were
select
able to
yes.
receive a
And
credit.
you
I
can see
believe
to the
again,
far
it was
right,
up
it's
to,
also
I
going to
think,
show in parentheses
75,
a
100,
form
or
referencing a
8,000.
form.
So this
We'll
first
see no or
credit
unsure.
was,
Again,
it
if
was
it's
going to
unsure,
be
the intake goal is to
a
go
credit
and
that
convert that
individuals
to
will
a
have to
yes
pay
or
back.
no.
They
Does this
started
actually
paying it back
pertain to that
in
individual?
2010.
So if someone had on
so
here,
you're paying this credit
yes, and we don't
back over a
find that
15-year
form.
time
They don't have a
frame
physical copy
on there.
They don't
So
have an electronic
individuals have to
version
file
where we
a
could
tax return,
print it
even if
off
they don't
from
have
their
a filing
phone. They can't
requirement.
email it to
They're
us.
still making
I would
payments
stop
on
right
this
here.
first-time home buyer credit.
We would not move further with that
What will
client if they're
happen is,
missing
if this
income.
is not on a tax
Maybe we would then
return,
allow
and it
them to
should be,
upload it
the
through the
return
portal.
will reject.
But
And we can,
income, we
reach
would
out to
definitely need
tax,
the income in order
client.
to start
They
that
can
tax
also
return.
look up what is their annual
On there.
payment amount on the
Also, as you're
IRS.gov
having questions,
website.
you're having a conversation, general conversation.
On there.
Sometimes
So
things
this
pop
is for
up.
those
Maybe
individuals
someone
that
had
don't have a
multiple
filing
temp
requirement,
jobs, and
but
you know,
they
as
did
you're
take
going through
advantage
their
of this
W-2s or their
first-time
source
home buyer
documents,
credit
you
when it
notice
was
that something is
enacted,
missing,
and they're still
but they
making their
still want to go
payments.
and get their tax return completed.
The next one is for
no,
number
they've already
2.
told
You or
me from
your
the
spouse is
conversation
filing
that there
jointly
is some missing
receive
income, so I would
HSA
stop right there.
distributions.
If you don't feel comfortable,
HSA, it
you
is
go to your site
a
coordinator
a
or your
savings
assistant
account for
site
medical,
coordinator,
dental
and then you can let us speak
that
with
you
them.
are able to put funds in their tax
Then we have
free.
expenses. So
on
these
there,
are some
so if you
things that,
contribute
as
to
we're
it,
going to
you are
talk
able
about,
to
like
do an
adjustment or
adjustment on your
deductions
tax return,
that they may qualify
unless
to
they're coming
reduce
out of
their
your
income,
W-2
to maybe
income.
reduce
And
their
as long as
taxes
you're
that they
using
owe,
these
or maybe
HSA
boost up their
funds for
refund.
medical, dental, vision
On here.
purposes.
So this could be
then
maybe
you don't
you
have
all
to
are in
report it as
college.
income, and you
So
don't
if
have
you
to
had
pay
to pay
taxes
something
on
out of
it.
pocket or took out a student loan,
Now,
there
I
may
do
be
believe
a
they
credit
have
that you
put
yourself
some
or
parameters
your
around it now to stop allowing
your parents may
individuals to use their
qualify to
HSA
put on their
for
tax return.
anything,
So
but
again,
it's like
there's
a
going through
debit
all this
card
information.
that
There's
you can
still
slide.
forms
So
that
if
they may
someone
be
uses
able
it
to
and it's not for
provide,
medical,
as well as
dental,
life
vision
events
purposes.
on here that
They
has
have to
forms or
report that,
questions.
amount that
Again,
they use
anything
as
that is marked
income,
unsure,
and they
we have to
pay
get it
tax
over to
on
a
it.
yes
I believe
or
it's
no.
a 20% tax that they are subject to.
And so
on
this
their
last
tax
page is just the
return.
follow-up questions on here. So do they want to
Then we
contribute
have
to
number
the
3. You had net
presidential
earnings
campaign
from self-employment
on
of
there
at least
if they're getting a
$400.
refund?
Do they want
So
it to
these
go
are
into
our
their
sole
bank account?
proprietors,
our contractors.
If they owe, do they want us to put in their bank information for it to be pulled out for
cash or
us
checks
to have the IRS to pull it out? So there's different options on how they can receive their refund, direct deposit, or savings bonds. They can get it in a check, as well as there's different ways that they can pay as well.
On there, so there are
and then there's this space right here.
If
they want to put any additional comments, or if you need to make notes as you're entering in their tax return.
All they made was $300.
So the very last piece on this form, it is our global consent.
If they received
so what this is, it is the taxpayer and the spouse. They have the option
to this requirement because we know that gross amount
is $600. This means if they go 1 year to my site location and do their tax return,
if they
and then maybe they move,
to be subject to
maybe it's congested at my site location, then they go to Andrew's.
So they would be required to file a
tax return. If they sign this, that means next year, yes, they want to. When I prepared the 2021 return,
and then the last one is number
2022. Their basic information is going to
premium tax credit were made for you, your spouse, or a dependent.
If none of their if they do not sign, that means their information is not rolling over. And it's just not for site to site. This is for anyone that is participating in the VITA program. If they sign this, that means they are allowing us to share their information with another VITA site
on here
if they decide to go there.
Income that they stated that they would have made for the year, they may have received a subsidy.
We talked about on the 13614C that they have to present us like individuals, they
some
have
identification. Their employer
on there, not just that, a social or ITIN. But what are some types of valid identification that we will accept?
Insurance
we will accept the U.S. driver's license.
So they have to go through the
because possible it could be an employer ID, depending on if we are able to tell if it's a
so that means
definitely because we also have some young individuals, 16 or 17, but that could be depending on what their monthly premium is. They could be independent doing their own return, and they may not have an ID. So in some cases, we may accept an employer ID based on how it looks.
They may get assistance
school ID
for that.
Again, those are those
if they
for
receive
those
assistance, then they have to reconcile it on their tax
students
return
that they're not able to get an ID as of yet. So it does have their name, the school, and the picture.
People have to enroll into the
a U.S. state ID,
by I believe it was
a military
ID,
15th. A national ID.
So you did not know what you were going to make this
year.
A
visa,
so you're providing them with your 2022 information.
And there may be some other exceptions,
if you get a raise,
but that is going to be based upon
you would have to call the marketplace so they can make an adjustment
there.
because
so these are all types of valid identification that are accepted at the VITA site. And so pretty much you should have one of these by the time the client comes.
If you lose your job
to get their tax return
you should call them and let them know
one of those forms of identification because that's what you're going to be using when you go to tax lawyer. You're going to be using their social security card or their ITIN number to start that return. Then when it comes and asks them for their date of birth, then hopefully you're going to get that from their ID.
And we're going to go to our final chart, which is chart
date
D.
Of birth from the
You're going to see that chart D says when you other situations when you must file.
So our goal is once we put all of this information into TaxSlayer, it produces the form 1040.
So looking at
here,
the last
so they've done away. The IRS has done away with the 1040A, the 1040EZ. They do have the 1040SR, but our software is going to always populate the 1040 form.
And this
is all the information, all the data that we put in from the income, if there were any adjustments.
So most of these we have them
standard deduction or any additional deductions or credits that they qualify for. This is what we're going to review with the client.
Or other
1040 form.
So we talked about on that first chart.
It's going to start with their filing status,
36.
Their their income has to be below if it's a spouse, their name, $12,950. Any dependents. So and then it goes from income, so you can see that it works its way down just like the intake form.
They should file to get those federal taxes.
This is the second page where it talks about the tax credits,
who do not have a payment requirement.
Then if a person is due a refund, or do they have to pay? On there, most of our goals is where you see the signature.
So we would tell them
most of our goal at our site's location is to e-file these tax service.
So even if it's
that we do have some individuals where they still have to
for you
actually
so you can get
print
those
this out, and they have to mail it into the IRS. But most of the time we print it out, it's their copy.
Payments for the year or have
on there. We want to e-file as many returns as we can. Definitely with COVID, that means their return will get processed faster. The goal would be they would hopefully get their refund if they have one timely.
Majority of their income.
I believe the IRS is still backlogging, kind of working on some things. So we try to push back on paper returns as much as possible if we can.
They would make estimated tax payments.
So within the past few years, with them getting rid of the 1048 forms of income,
they do not automatically.
The IRS introduced these additional forms that have to go with the 1040
payment to the IRS.
So this first one,
they're remitting
it early before, and it is additional income and adjustments to income. So any income that was not listed directly on the form 1040, you're going to see it in Part 1 additional income
payments if they were not
on there, and then TaxSlayer it will let you have a preview of looking at these forms on here to see if you don't see what you're going to see if it's listed. They also have the option of if they got a refund, you're going to then see the summary total tax return of Part 1. It's going to get reflected, moved over to the form 1040
tax return.
Then Part 2, it's going to be adjustments to income. So these are reductions.
That is
what's minus the income, subtracted from the income.
For whatever reason, there was a life event.
Our Schedule 2, it has additional taxes.
Making estimated taxes.
So some people could be just subject to their federal tax, have federal tax liability. But then some other people, they may have additional taxes that they're subject. So we're going to talk about those self-employed individuals. That means they have to pay their self-employment, the employee
for the
and employer
income
tax
credit.
There may be some individuals that got health insurance through the refundable credit. So we're going to talk about
common additional
anytime a person is
entitled to a funded credit, that means.
And then down below we have other taxes. Again, so I've already talked about like the self-employment tax on
their pocket.
We're going to also talk about maybe if a person pulled from their retirement early, they may be.
There's for the earned income credit, we're going to talk about the qualifications.
So this is what Schedule 2 is. Schedule 2 is those additional taxes outside of the federal tax liability
to qualify for the earned income credit.
It's based upon your earned income being within under a certain okay, we're going to go to the last form, the last schedule, and this is Schedule 3. These are additional credits and payments.
Refundable credit.
So Part 1 is non-refundable credits.
For the refundable American Opportunity Credit.
We're going to talk about non-refundable credits, how they reduce a person's liability and try to reduce it as close to zero as possible.
Credit, that is
on here. So again, if it wasn't listed on the form 1040, you're going to see those non-refundable credits in Part 1 of this
throughout their lifetime.
And then Part 2 is going to be other payments and refundable credit. So the good thing about on the other payments and refundable credits, if a person's tax liability is already zero,
that
it's going to produce a refund to the tax client. If they still have a liability, it's going to reduce it. It's going to reduce their liability to hopefully get that balance due down, or can it convert it over to a refund
on their tax return?
And again, so all of these schedules,
1099B and
it just takes that summary total, that amount, and it's going to move it over to the form 1040. So maybe if you see a line that just says Schedule 1, you're going to have to refer to the Schedule 1 just to see what that amount is made up of.
And then the last one is number 10. You must file a zero. You want to file a zero AGI return.
And getting close, ending up with our housekeeping, we have our links and passwords.
Other assistance.
So a lot of you, again, when you get your email from Jonathan on number 10,
he's already going to give you
there
a
lot of times is the link and learn. If you've already taken your ethics and intake, then you're going to see number 3, the Vita Central.
We'll go into the tax
on there. That's also when you go to that link, you're going to see
interest income. Under quick links, you're going to see access to
file that tax return on there.
There are people that get,
and then when you go to that practice lab, if you go to number 4, we have a universal password that everyone has to use to access.
So this
would
allow us
in all
to
caps
complete
the
Train Pro
Web.
Or there is a
once you put that
password
in, it is going to have you to create an account.
Non-filing.
You're going to do a username and a password. That password, your password has to be 15 characters long.
Are there any questions about
write that information down, save it so that you can refer back to it?
A, B, C, or D?
On there, because you're going to be into the practice lab. You're going to have 3 scenarios that you're going to have to complete. You can also use the practice lab maybe if someone asks you, hey, so the question was, does a dependent have to file on their own?
You can use
or does a person claiming them continue to go to the practice lab just to practice
okay, so what do you
information?
Can you go into detail like filing on behalf
on there?
of them? Like
then number 5, the volunteer hub. You all have already signed up
in
like
Better
Impact.
W-2 tax information.
You signed up here for this site.
Okay.
But once you take your advanced certification and you passed it, and you give your volunteer agreement over to Jonathan, that means you're ready to sign up for any of our site locations.
We know that they're your dependent.
You have to take that volunteer agreement to all site locations that you go to just for the first time, so that we can verify.
I would allow you to complete their tax return because
you're also able to make adjustments.
They are 17 or younger
to your volunteer.
Now, if they're
to your schedule.
Or older,
so if you decide that you're going to come to my site, something came up, you have an exam that you need to study for, you're able to go in and cancel. If not, you can contact me or Jonathan, and we can make modifications.
Put their information. I would put their information in the system,
so you're able to see
and then I would tell them, okay,
choices
well, they need to come
for our different sites. Now there is times where we will limit the number of volunteers that can go to a site, just so we can try to push volunteers at another location as well. So if you go in, you don't see anything for that particular day or time, that means we're full to capacity. And so we would ask that you, if you can, go to another site location.
So definitely those
if it is out your way, just knowing that we do have that
their guardian parents to bring in their information.
Also, number 6, again, this is if you have to contact
their parents can bring
Jonathan,
it in,
maybe
but
if
I will
you
not
have to cancel
I will not complete
same
that tax
day
return
for your slot
coming in
on there.
Lakeisha, another example,
And so then there's our
college,
resources, our website, DallasTaxCenters.org, and then our Facebook and our YouTube. So what we're doing with this training today and tomorrow, it's going to be recorded. We're going to clean it up, and we're going to also put it on our YouTube page. So those individuals that were not able to attend the training this week, they can go to our YouTube, and then they're going to see the
interest income, like forms of income. In order to for those forms to be filed, there is a set limit.
So we're going to hop into the very first one. On there,
before we do,
I know this is, we did kind of just do some introduction.
And provide
Does anybody need a break? If it is interest of $10 or more, $10 or more that was earned for the year on there. So yes, definitely if it is exceeding
does anybody have any questions?
That was in chart B,
24
yes,
slides.
they would have that form on there.
In 2 minutes.
Any other questions? Okay, good. Thank
Let's
you.
take a break.
Let's do a break.
You're being kind. They need a break.
So we're going to come to our first poll question on here. And so what it has on here, and I'm going to ask you guys if you can just help me by giving shout out.
We're going to take we're going to say a 7-minute break, and we will be back.
Single, and her gross income is $20,000.
There you go.
She's required to file a tax return. Correct. So I heard all yeses, and that is correct. Henrietta and Javier are married and plan to file a joint return. Henrietta is 67 and had a gross income of $11,000 for the year. Javier, 66, his gross income was $5,000 for the year. Are they required to file a tax return? Say it again. Okay. I heard more no's. So you all are correct because it is below the threshold, the filing requirement threshold. Janet and Harry are married, filed jointly, lived together all year. During the tax year, she turned 66 and he turned 67. Their gross income was $19,800. Based only on this information, are they required to file a tax return? Think I'm hearing more no's. Okay. And you can always go back and look at your chart A for reference. So that is no, you all are correct. Bob is 27 years old. His gross income was $17,000 during the tax year. Based only on this information, is he required to file a tax return? Okay, I'm hearing yeses. So yes, he is required to file a tax return. Okay, the next poll question. Juanita has a dependent child and can file as the qualifying widow. So that is that surviving spouse. She is 67 years old. Her gross income was $27,000. Based only on this information, is she required to file a tax return?
Okay, I'm hearing yeses. So yes, she is.